What's good, everybody? It's Batman, and we're over here going to be doing a reaction video to Seth the Programmer. He has released another video, so we're going to be checking it out. It is basically Madara versus the 5 Kage. I'm assuming he's referring to the Boruto era versions of them, and I'm assuming it's going to be like the maxed out prime, like 6-pass Madara before, Kaguya basically pulled a Noki Doke on him. So that's basically what we're going to be dealing with here. We're going to watch the video, we're going to check it out, get some, get a reaction going, and just basically get my thoughts and opinion on it, and just go from there. Seth is normally good for all his videos he posts. If you guys don't know who he is, make sure to check him out. Make sure to put his YouTube channel down in the link description down below. So yeah, don't sleep on him. He has incredible content. I'm not like a crazy amount of videos either, so you'll be able to catch up, or be able to watch them all if you basically just want to milk them. But yeah, it's great Naruto content, great content overall, to be honest, too. So I've basically seen almost all of them. So yeah, but we're going to check it out, and let's do it.
Hello everyone, it's your host, Seth the Programmer. And with me today, I have my son, 6. He's eaten a lot of Big Macs today. He's been a naughty boy. I put him into his room, and I told him, listen here, son. You ate my fries when I went to go to the bathroom. Like, he eats too many fries as it is. I'm telling you, he eats at least 4,500
6 be doing that shit, bro.
It's a little bit much. He gets a little bit of a gravitational pull after we're done eating. And I was like, okay, I'll take you there, but you can't steal my fries this time. And he still stole them anyway. So I said, okay. In return for that, we're gonna record today. And he's like, okay, sure, okay. So he's stuck in his room for an hour. He did some research on Madara.
Sorry if you're an
echo,
the 5
Kage, the new one. And today, we got you a pretty good video. So the reason this video is actually more interesting than you think, I know a lot of you are like, oh my god, here we go again. More Boruto beating up Naruto Shippuden. Well, we have good news. This matchup is actually pretty interesting. It is not a total stomp for what you'd expect. So, yeah, you might actually enjoy this video a lot more than you think. So, with that out of the way, we can kind of get started.
Just from that statement alone, I want, because I already had my thoughts in the beginning and everything and whatnot. That's where I think they're going to go with it, and they'll probably lead into more, but for now, we'll leave it at that, and let's get into it.
With a little brief overview of the characters. Obviously, Madara is a character who previously he was able to fight Hashirama Senju, the first Hokage, who is the ultimate shinobi in terms of Madara and Kabuto's opinions. He is pretty much considered the GOAT shinobi of Shippuden before the 6 Paths and 10 Tails characters. Of course, something interesting about that is back in the day when they did fight, 6 and I hypothesized that Madara might actually have been stronger than Hashirama a little bit, because Hashirama has an insane regeneration ability, and it's implied that he was actually forced to use it many times against Madara, whereas Madara, he can't regenerate, so it's implied Madara was kind of giving him the smoke, and then Hashirama would regenerate, and then they wore each other's stamina down, and Hashirama won. So it's interesting that someone who people think that might be able to contend with 10 Tails Obito, which I personally would say 6 Paths Obito is probably stronger than Hashirama, but it's interesting that he might be able to throw hands a little bit, that Madara might be a little bit stronger than that. He wouldn't beat Hashirama, but he's a little bit stronger than that. And then he gets Hashirama's Sage Mode ingrained into his skin, and then he gets 2 Renegon, the eyes of the Sage of the 6 Paths, which greatly amplify all his abilities and his powers, and then he absorbs his own 10 Tails, which put Obito as greater or contending with.
So as you guys can tell, the strongest version of Madara. So I was correct about that. So they're basically just getting on all the amps that Madara is basically getting. Madara basically gets amp after amp after amp. Now, one thing I will contend, with something that Seth and 6 have stated. It's interesting on how they say that, Madara is like slightly stronger or or more better than Hash because of, Hashirama's healing and all that, yada yada. So I would have to go back and rewatch the fights and, and whatnot and kind of reanalyze everything to really have like an official opinion on this. But at the end of the day, I'm just going to put one thing out there. It's really interesting that they say that, because every time Madara fought Hashirama, he lost, And second, Hashirama is always holding back when he fights against Madara because he's not trying to kill his friend. So that's another thing to put into consideration. And third, Madara needed the Nine Tails to even contest with Hashirama. Okay? That's really important to put into consideration because, you know, when they're fighting, like, Hashirama, when he eventually gets serious, is when fucking Madara literally has the Nine Tails, and he encloaks it with the, you know, Susanoo, which becomes a majestic Susanoo. And basically, Madara goes into Sage Mode, does his big fucking wood transformation, final, you know, form and everything, and just shits on Madara. Absolutely fucking stomps him. Just one attack, okay? And could have easily killed him, but he didn't. And the fight went on, and they basically were both like exhausted and fatigued. And then Hashirama pulls him, you know, pulls a dub with a wood clone of catching him off guard and getting him from behind. Okay, and that's kind of how the last fight went in the Valley of the End. If Madara did not have the Nine Tails, it would have been instant GG. It was still a W right off the bat, but it would have been even like worse, like an ass beating basically at that point. Okay. And not only that, Madara doesn't even have to be in Sage Mode, and he can use his wood transformation and still contest against Madara's perfect Susanoo. So, you know, Madara's final transformation in power is basically the perfect Susanoo, and Hashirama is basically the wood golem. And then you have Sage Mode to make his wood golem even more powerful. And then he has like his final Buddha statue, like Thousand Fist transformation wood style jutsu. You know, like, so I'm just putting that out there. You know, I don't know why they're trying to really, like, imply all because he has a healing factor and healing generation, you know, of why that's the only reason Hashirama wins. I don't think that's ever really truly implied because and from what I've seen and what I remember, narratively, it is mainly implied over and over that Hashirama, it does scale over Madara. He is more powerful. And yes, he does have a healing factor, okay, which, you know, he's able to heal from wounds, yada yada, whatever, but, you know, that's not the main reason why he can even contend with Madara, or why, you know, he's even, like, no, it has nothing to do with that, you know, that's just basically a last resort, or to give Hashirama, you know, a lot more support at the end of the day, and that's it, you know, this way to avoid fatal blows, because at the end of the day, Madara is trying to fucking kill Hashirama, like Sasuke versus Naruto all over again, and pull a W, while Hashirama is basically, you know, holding back and not really trying to kill his best bud. And that is also narratively implied over and over and over throughout the show. So, I'm just saying, I'm putting that out there, but I'll let that slide, but I just want you guys to kind of know that. And if you guys really think I'm capping on that or whatever, then literally just go back, like, deadass, go back all the way to where Hashirama is talking about the, you know, the history between the Senju and Uchiha and all that, all those episodes, which is during the war arc. It shows all of it, shows all their fights. That's fucking it, you know, it's all there. It's not rocket science.
Hashirama to begin with, on top of that, and he gets 6 pads. And then, on top of that,
another Renegade.
He gets the other Renegade, and then he absorbs the God Tree, which is Kaguya's essence, which basically made him go from getting annihilated by base 6 pads Naruto to Naruto requiring his Nine Tails Bijou cloaks on top of their 6 paths powers to even contend with him when he had one eye. And then when he gets 2 eyes, he's able to fight both of them with basically just Limbo clones. And then he gets a 3rd eye, which is confirmed to be a Renegon with Sharingan powers that can then cast the Infinite Tsukuyomi, as well as potentially allow him to transport between dimensions, which Kakashi refers to as godlike. So Madara basically achieves a godlike level of power that even makes the Sage of the 6 Paths, the GOAT of the series, basically say, wow, he's pretty much becoming me, and he's trying to become my mom, who could...
He's got power on par with me, and that's before, like, a lot of the amps Seth mentioned. So,
Grammarly can't teach you to dance.
I love ads.
Yep.
It's before the God Tree even, where he's like, oh, he's like getting around my level. So you could say if he's around Hagoromo's level, maybe Madara can reach that tier of like the Sage of the Six Paths. I don't know, maybe not his prime, because in his prime he had the 10 tails, all that, whatever. But you know, even getting to Hagoromo's level as a chakra ghost is like some crazy for Madara.
Yeah, and the whole Hagoromo versus Madara thing, that's a whole different topic, because obviously you'd have to debate about, okay, is Hagoromo, is the amps he gave Naruto and Sasuke actually like half his power just added on top of them, and that's why they're as strong as Madara or able to fight this god level Madara? Or did Hagoromo's Six Paths power awaken things within them that also made them slightly stronger on top of getting Hagoromo's power, which makes the topic more subjective, such as, in example, say Hagoromo did give his Six Paths powers to Sasuke. That's all fine and good. Sasuke gets really, really strong. But what if, in result of that, Sasuke, on top of, say, Kabuto's Senjutsu-type chakras, awaken the Rinnegan, which then amps him even further, right? So that's a totally different discussion.
It's like implied that whenever you get close to death, that's when you awaken the Rinnegan. So maybe even getting Hagoromo's chakra didn't make Sasuke awaken it. It was just the fact that he got Hashirama's chakra, because Hashirama gave it to him, and Hagoromo's chakra, then got close to death that he got put up to get a Rinnegan.
And with Naruto's Six Paths, it's a little bit more mysterious. It's like the way it's described as if it's like some god-chosen power-up or something. So Six Paths is a little bit different for Naruto, the Six Paths Senjutsu form, where he has all mastery of nature and blah, blah, blah. That's a little bit different, but Sasuke's is a little bit more blatant, that it might not all be Hagoromo why they're able to fight Madara and Kaguya and all them. That's totally irrelevant, though. We just want to say that's
a lot
Madara
of, like,
is
you know,
in Shippuden,
that's a weird
part
topic.
2 of Naruto. He reaches a god-like level of status. Obviously, Kaguya is the progenitor and the ultimate force of nature, so obviously Madara nor anybody in original Naruto really competes with her, but Madara was basically the GOAT in terms of that part of Naruto. So the thing that makes this video interesting, though, is that the 5 Kage of Boruto, we've seen Madara fight the 5 Kage from Shippuden. They totally were not ready for anybody of Madara's caliber. However, the 5 Kage of Boruto are different because
they are built different.
They're obviously a lot stronger, but they've also potentially have been training for people like Kaguya, like Madara. They're a lot more prepared, and their circumstances are a lot different, which is why Sasuke even bothered bringing them against Momoshiki and Kinshiki, who would scare even Kaguya, right? That's why they're even relevant in that contest. So I guess you can get a little bit into their scaling.
So when it comes to the Kage and like scaling to Naruto and things like that, we know that they don't reach that power.
That man got bodied.
Naruto's level, because Fuse Momo just flattens the Kage. Like he
one-shots them basically.
They all get one shot, every single one of them.
Yep.
Chojuro, Kurotsuchi. I think actually no, Chojuro's the only one.
Bro, that looked really bad for them in my opinion. They were just kind of just getting like fucking mopped. Holy shit.
Because he's weaker than Kurotsuchi.
Because I was gonna kind of like talk about that, to where, you know, from what I last said, it was like the movie and it was canon and everything, and where the 5 Kage are like fighting against Momoshiki, they're kind of doing their thing, whatever, yada yada. And they were going back and forth with him. Like, they were trading. I think even that chick on the screen, she does like a move where she's able to deck him, and Momoshiki actually gets sent flying or something. I'm pretty sure that happened as well. But like, they were doing things, and then Momoshiki gets like really pissed, and then just starts fucking them all up and one-shotting. And then it basically boils down to Sasuke and Naruto versus Momoshiki, and then eventually Boruto doing like the team up. So, you know, it's interesting, because clearly it's implied that, you know, they're somewhat relative to threats on that level, and they can kind of scale to it to some degree. But at the end of the day, they wouldn't really win or surpass it, though, if that makes any sense. So that's what I kind of got when I first saw all that. But I'm going to kind of let them go on, and it's been a good while since I've seen that movie anyway, so, you know, but we'll let them kind of continue on and see where they're going, what direction.
Anyway. And then base Naruto is contending with like the same Fuse Momoshiki, right? He's not winning at all. Momo is clearly overpowering him, but he's not getting one shot like the other Kage.
True.
So when it comes to these other Kage getting as strong as these 6 pass tier of power, you have to take into account what type of like training did these Kage do to get so high. Because just having the thought in mind, like, oh, we need to prepare to fight people like Kaguya, people like Madara, and eventually Momo, doesn't mean that they can just reach that level, right? It's just like a goal they have in mind.
Right.
So do we go with the...
I also think they even show this fight in the Boruto show as well, and it had like a slightly different adaptation to it. But just saying, putting that out there too. Like I said, I would definitely have to review it to really give like a full, concrete, like based opinion of like how powerful the 5 Kage are and all that. And it's not just from that one fight, because that's basically all you can really kind of go off. You know, that's one of their main official fights that they have. You know, but well, obviously as of now, we're more relying on Seth and 6, you know, his memory and what they're mainly referring to and all that. So I'm kind of just taking their word for it, because for the most part I do remember. But you know, that we'll just kind of leave it at that, because the only thing they're really showing is that, you know, they got like one-shotted, or they were getting kind of fucked up, which that is true as well. Obviously, they're literally showing it, but they were doing a lot more before that too. That did happen, so it's not like that was like the only thing that happened, and they just get speed blitz in one shot, you know, or they just basically get pressed up and they kind of trade a little bit, and then bam, they're fucked, you know. That's not how it went.
The implication that, okay, maybe these Kage have Naruto level potential, possibly even higher, because they go from below Edo Madara to now what people would say is like blitz levels over Madara's strongest form. And how did they get there? I personally just don't think it's that way. Me and Seth were talking about it a bit before the video, like how can these Kage scale to Momoshiki and Kinshiki, but like not be as powerful, if you will?
And there's a few ways to go about it in an interesting way. We need to look at what the facts of the matter are, okay? And obviously, it kind of goes down to its
one thing I will say this, you know, when it comes to the how or the why or this or that, you know, one easy thing you guys need to understand about Naruto is it's similar with Kakashi. Look at Kakashi from part 1, and then all the way to Shippuden, and then all the way to the drastic boost of power and the war arc, and then to Boruto. Like, it just happens. The characters train over time, more experience, you name it, and they get more powerful. That's just how that fucking goes. So yeah, the same concept and, you know, would apply to the fucking Kage. I don't, you know. So, and if you really, really want to kind of like do critical thinking on that and be like why or the how, sure, go all up for it. But really, it's not even that complicated or serious. It's really simple. It's something Kishimoto basically established over the series of Naruto itself, and the more time goes by and yada yada this, and the characters, the more training they do, the more powerful they get. That's it. Simple. So, you know.
Which is Momoshiki versus Kaguya, okay? The reason the Kage are in discussion is because they fight these characters, Kinshiki and Momoshiki, who Kaguya is creating the White Zetsu army for, right? So, the problem with that, though, is the statement is somewhat vague.
See, I was talking about that.
What I mean by that is, yes, Kinshiki and Momoshiki, when they come to Earth, if they were to 2v1 Kaguya, somehow or some way, would probably defeat her, okay? But we don't really know how. Like, we don't know why or how. So it's a little bit more ambiguous than people like to make it out to be. So I'm in the firm camp that, yes, that duo would beat Kaguya.
Yeah,
but
the Zetsu army's not doing.
They can't even fly. Like, they can't fly. Like, what would they do? Like,
They're
they
getting
literally
Biju bombed or something.
yeah. So yes, clearly Kaguya was scared of them. But there's a few reasons you can go into it. Now, in the Otsutsuki or Ishiki's palace, I don't know what you would call it, Ishiki's realm, where he keeps his 10 tails, there seems to be some type of hierarchy among their clan, which, in shocking terms, it actually implies, you know, Ishiki's number 1, which we already assumed, Kinshiki's the bottom, and then Momoshiki and Kaguya are a similar level. But what's weird about this is that if Kaguya's a relative level to Momoshiki, way back when, and Kaguya is implied to have gotten away from the clan and they can't keep updates on her, and then she becomes stronger. She becomes a lot stronger inside of her dimension. It might be a little bit more ambiguous, and some people theorize that it's not Momoshiki per se. Maybe Momoshiki is rivaling Kaguya, but maybe it's the fusion of the two that then overpowers Kaguya. So it'd be the fusion Momoshiki that would defeat Kaguya. And a good example of this is obviously we then see Naruto and Sasuke, even though they're fatigued, they perform fusion themselves to defeat his golem per se. As an example.
That golem was no joke.
If that's the case, maybe there's more arguments that the Kage aren't necessarily, thrashing Kaguya. And a good reason for this as well is that Momoshiki's combat ability, this might get some hate, is actually questionable. The reason I say that is, now originally Momoshiki's original design was that he was very bad at taijutsu. That was his main thing in the novels and the original versions. He was bad at taijutsu. And then it seems like that was retconned for the Boruto Next Generation series, where now he's able to seemingly access the past generations of his clansmen that he's absorbed into his DNA, which lets him fight better. But there's another problem with that, which is that he absorbs Kinshiki, who was already a melee type to begin with. So that data that allows him to fight better, say in fused Momo form, where he's using Wing Chun or whatever and doing pressure points.
Up base Naruto.
Yeah, that could literally just be from Kinshiki's line that then is given to Momoshiki. And even when Boruto uses the karma mark, this is then debated if Boruto's karma only contains Momoshiki or if it contains fusion Momoshiki, and if it's fusion Momoshiki, then fusion Momoshiki could contain Kinshiki's taijutsu-esque DNA or, combat prowess. And if that's the case, you may be able to come to the conclusion that Kinshiki is just not as strong as Kaguya, and the Momoshiki who is just isn't nearly as good as she is at close quarters, and that's why you say he's running away trying to get distance on Dara.
Okay, that makes more sense. Okay, I see what they're saying now.
Arui and Gaara trying to spam attacks or whatever, which by the way, we never see him use a giant truth-seeking ball or any massive scale attacks like he shot at Naruto against these Kage. It's never shown. But that might be a reason why he's acting the way he is and acting weird, and it also might imply an ego check, which is similar to what Zamasu in his fusion form did in Dragon Ball Super, where he gets this massive power and then he thinks the people in front of him aren't worth his true full powers, and then he gets blown back over and over again until he takes it seriously. And the similar thing might be with Momoshiki, and that's why he didn't launch, these expansive truth-seeking orbs at the 5 Kage or whatever have you, because he might think they're 2 below him. Which is, there's a lot
he
more
just gotta clap them up with taijutsu.
I'll let you speak. I spoke a lot there, but...
Do we even think Momoshiki can use Truth Seeker orbs? We know he can use Rinnegan rods, right? We see him.
It's debatable. Obviously, it's debatable.
Yeah,
I won't say it's concrete, but
it's a debatable thing as to if Momoshiki could do this. But you could say reasonably he should be able to. If he's Kaguya level, he's got the Rinnegan. The Rinnegan gives you access to all 5.
Now I'm thinking about it, I don't even think Kage had the orbs. Am I wrong on that, or I can't remember.
The Rinnegan gives you access to all 5 chakra natures. And that's what the True Seeker orbs are. They're just a big ball of every chakra nature.
Yep.
So I think Momoshiki does.
So Kage did, okay.
Even if he doesn't, he just never launches that giant Frieza death ball at them ever. You know what I mean? Like he did versus Naruto.
And he could have.
Or at least that we've seen. So with that out of the way, so even if you say base Momo is fighting Kaguya, and it's a back and forth, maybe you could argue Kaguya, if she's relative to him, would probably win because she's probably a better fighter or something like that. And she has more immortality hacks and blah blah blah.
Yeah.
Which she did use against Naruto and Sasuke. Wink wink. A lot of times.
Tree of Earth,
Yeah, exactly. So if Madara's kind of on par with Naruto and Sasuke, give or take, especially with the 3 eyes. He should be able to also fight Kaguya. Of course, he'd still lose. He'd lose, but he would be able to participate in that battle just like Naruto and Sasuke did.
Yeah,
at
for
least.
sure.
If anything, beginning of the battle, Naruto, he's kind of clashing with this Kaguya that's not trying to kill him. But Madara should be able to do even better in an exchange like that, because The only time we see Naruto doing anything against Madara is back when he had his 2 eyes, and it's against the Limbo clones, right? And Naruto's using his shadow clones, so you may be able to imply like Madara's holding back because they're shadow clones, or at least the Limbo clones are. They're like holding back because they're shadow clones. They don't really need to go all on their shadow clones. Madara's about to launch Infinite Tsukuyomi anyway, so they're just like, it, let's just fight a little bit. Because they're not using any Rinnegan abilities, any Rinnegan rods, anything like that.
It's just pure taijutsu when we see
Then
it.
he gets his 3rd eye on top of that, which is more power, because we know that when you awaken your own eyes, they're like better than if you borrow someone else's or something like that.
Yeah.
So Madara gets another 3rd eye that possibly contains like maybe 4 Jubies worth of chakra.
Yeah. You can go into why you think that is, by the way.
So
we had an interesting talk about that.
After Madara launches the Infinite Tsukuyomi, we see that some of the Tomo in his Rinne Sharingan are ripped away. And we know that the Tomo in your Rinne Sharingan get ripped away whenever you're low on chakra because of Sasuke, right? So when he goes up to launch the Infinite Tsukuyomi, he has, I think, 9. And when he comes back down, he has 6. And then the only way he gets them back is when Zetsu starts pumping these above Jubi levels of chakra that Naruto says Madara is getting. And that's when we see like the other 3 Tomo appear again.
Interesting.
Go like off that implication that each 3 Tomo set is another Jubi, then he possibly got like 3 to 4 times Jubi Imp.
Okay.
Just with his Rinne Sharingan.
That's interesting. I didn't really, fight, so. You know,
and
ever ponder on that.
The other thing too is obviously Madara felt he took Naruto and Sasuke seriously, but when he came down, he wasn't fearful or doubtful that he could defeat Naruto and Sasuke. And when he fights strong people, he's very respectful, actually, which people don't really realize. The reason he's really cocky a lot throughout the series is because he's fighting people who are basically ants. But when it comes to strong people, he is a lot more respectful, such as Hashirama. And then when he comes down to Naruto and Sasuke, he takes them seriously, but there's no fear at all. There's no doubt in his mind that he's going to solve this case. He thinks he's going to be able to do it based on what he's seen from them. Now, this is all a lot of introduction. This is like almost 20 minutes of introduction. I know. You're like, where's the battle? This is all really important because a lot of people who don't know the Boruto Kage be like, what? Madara slams? Like, what? He just one-taps them. What?
Goes through them. They can't beat him. What?
Yeah. And then obviously, you know, people who scale Boruto a lot, they will think that the Boruto Kage just choke slam him because they think, you know, Darui should solo Kaguya and stuff like that, you know.
That's the more edgy side of things. So.
Yeah. And, you know, there's arguments to be had about it. I'm not saying it's true or false. But for the sake of this video, I think it's fair to say that there's a matchup to be had. Okay, so there's a good matchup to be had. But the problem is, if Madara can fight these Kage at all, like if he doesn't just get, like, blitzed, one shot, and sealed somehow,
he wins.
He unironically stomps them out. Like, he stomps the current Kage out.
I would agree.
Which is what a lot of people don't realize. But let me read you something from the 4th data book on Madara's Limbo. So this is the description
what I
of his,
say.
Limbo ability. So
what I fucking say, bro, that the Limbo would basically be his clutch W in that fight against the 5 Kage. I fucking knew it. I called it from the beginning. But point proven. I knew it. So, and then now, basically they nailed it. You know, like, this is how you basically have to understand it. It's either... keep fucking yawning. So it's either, if you truly think that Boruto Kage just scaled drastically so much higher than Madara at that point, then yeah, sure, he gets blitzed, one shot, sealed. Cool, great, right? And obviously you would have to have arguments to establish that scaling and proof and yada yada and why Madara yada yada whatever. And then and unless you know your shit, or if you're like Seth or Six, then you have to provide, you know, proof of why Madara could not actually be too far below them, you know what I mean, or even maybe be on the same level and contest yada yada, because they provide all their points and everything to like not, you know, sleep on Madara's power level himself. So they kind of went on that. So then you would have to need those arguments to defend. And then you go from there, which now what they're going to basically do is establish the main offense argument for Madara, which would obviously be Limbo. So meaning, overall what I just said is, if you're able to argue that Madara is either just a little bit below them or on their level, okay, With Limbo alone, that's all he needs, and they lose. There would be nothing they could fucking do. So, and now I'll let Six and Seth kind of elaborate and explain why this ability is going to be a big drastic W condition.
Receiving this Phantom is impossible. The enemy's unpreparedness invites disaster. This statement applies, this is off quote, but this applies to the Kage because the Kage would not be prepared for Limbo. They'd have no counter to it whatsoever.
Basically, yeah.
They would not be able to see it or interact with Limbo clones. A person who possesses the Renegon can intervene in an adjacent world, in an extremely distant world. In that place, a shadow is produced, which everyone who is connected with the current world can't feel, so they can't interact with them. Not only will the Jutsu user gain a duplicate of himself with equal ability, but it will also be invisible.
That's
so
crazy.
That means we have 4 invisible Madaras that are all equal to himself, and probably have all of his Renegon abilities as well.
Yeah.
Probably. Squaring off against a user, counterattack is impossible. Going against this ability will result in one losing against such a powerful enemy. When fighting the enemy in close combat, the shadow will stay away, but after a time, the shadow will return. So basically, if the idea of the Limbo is that if your opponent is caught off guard and will be defeated, then Madara will defeat the Kage rather easily, because all he has to do is have the Limbo clones sneak up on them, even if they expected it. What do? They can't interact with it.
They can't do anything.
They literally can't do anything, even if they want to do something about it.
None of the Kage have a Renegon, and it's not implied they have like 6 paths level awareness. Even if you do think they got to like the 6 paths tier power, they don't have this 6 paths level of universal awareness. What does it say? Naruto can command like everything in nature.
It's crazy. It's
Like,
crazy. It
they
goes
don't
crazy.
have that type of awareness, so they just can't interact with Limbo in any way other than not with it. Because Sakura like punches it, but it doesn't do anything.
You could also might be able to imply that it can Madara can kind of command them to block attacks. It's weird. It's a weird ability. But basically, all Madara has to do is use a True-Seeking Rod to stab them all in the back at the same time, because there will be 4 of them. We're not including Naruto in this Kage list, obviously. But should have clarified that at the beginning. I might make like an asterisk or something. But Limbo clone for each Kage. He might also be able to soul sap every single one of them, which we've never seen any of them really have a soul resistance at all. It might, the soul resistance thing might be something more of like Jinchuriki-like, although we see Orochimaru kind of do it. But he might also have a special ability to do it as well. It's very ambiguous. But basically, Madara could soul sap them off guard. He could True-Seeking Rod them off guard.
Yeah.
He is completely immortal.
Or better yet, just a fucking simple chakra rod, that too.
They have no sealing jutsu that would really be able to work on him due to the fact that he can absorb all of it.
Yep.
The only way they really conceivably can win is if they somehow beat him down so bad he has no chakra, and then somehow find a way to seal him if he's like unconscious or something from lack of chakra, which if he's relative to them is very unlikely, because he can not only absorb their chakra upon contact like Sasuke did to Naruto, or what Nagato did to Killer Bee, but he can absorb their jutsu endlessly as well, which they do use jutsu. And there's just so many win cons. He also has poison spores from Hashirama. He still has Hashirama Sage mode. He still has his wood style. He has the Limbo clones that all can use those abilities as well as the fact that we don't even know how strong his Susanoo would be either.
Yeah.
Bro, that's what I wanted.
He
to
never
mention
even used it.
Like he never uses his perfect Susanoo when he's 6 paths.
Because we see Sasuke's Susanoo versus Kaguya, but that doesn't mean that's how strong Naruto's Kyuubi mode would be, or Madara's Susanoo would be. Because the thing about Sasuke's abilities is that Sasuke's abilities, when he first gets them in 6 paths, and I described this before, is that Sasuke doesn't actually have mastery or his full powers when he first obtains them.
And can we really, like, try to grasp that concept, to be honest? How fucking powerful would Madara be with his perfect Susanoo as a 10-tailed Shinjutiki? With everything they just said, bro. Imagine that. Bro, that shit would be so fucking crazy, bro. Like, yeah, that would just be fucking insane. But the 5 Kage would just basically get pooped on at that point.
It does. So while Naruto is kind of gradually getting weaker fighting Kaguya, using all his abilities, just True Seeking Rod or whatever, Sasuke is mastering his Rinnegan and gaining abilities as he learns how to use them, which is kind of the dynamic they had. So Madara might actually be stronger than Sasuke was versus Kaguya, so even that Susanoo that fought Kaguya probably wouldn't even be a good representation of Madara to begin with, on top of the fact that we think Third Eye might be stronger than them anyway.
Exactly.
So there's so many weird things that Madara has that makes it really hard for the Kage to win. But the real icing on the cake is just, he could just infinite Tsukuyomi, and like it would be in character.
Yeah.
And we
That
have never
too.
seen any counters.
And they don't
or
have
notable
resistance to that
things
level
or
of
Genjutsu
Genjutsu.
resistance that
Yeah.
these 4 Boruto Kage
I
have
totally
done
didn't even
at all. So
Yeah.
even
Literally
ponder
just
that.
like the same argument I gave for like them not having the 6 pass level of awareness. They shouldn't have Rinnegan level normal eyes or something
It's
to
like,
resist.
they have
Tsukuyomi.
Datara trained eyes for
Yeah.
the infinite Tsukuyomi.
And
No.
Datara's didn't even work. So
Yeah, Data didn't
it
even
doesn't
work.
even matter. Like they're
Yeah.
just not. They're not countering infinite Tsukuyomi.
No.
And then on top of that, if we just like talk about them running Madara out of chakra, this is just unrealistic. Like, there is no world in which you can say the Kage each individually have more chakra than the Jubi. In fact, they don't even have more chakra than Kurama.
Yeah.
Because Momoshiki was looking all over Earth for all this chakra, and he's like, I need that one right there.
The Eight
I
Tails
need
had
the
more than them
fox."
too.
And
Yeah.
the 8 tails, yeah, he went to the 8 tails first. So
Yeah.
the Kage don't have that crazy
No.
Jubi level of
They're
chakra.
powerful, but they don't have
Madara
ridiculous
possibly
chakra
has-
reserves. Madara has
I
so
lost
much.
count, 7.
And one thing you guys
Also-
gotta understand, the more chakra you have, the more powerful you can be, the more powerful your jutsus, your speed, everything. So, yeah.
Multiple times Jubi levels of power and chakra, so
So
Yeah.
them running Madara out of chakra is just not realistic. So
Yeah.
what you really get is just it's impossible for them to win.
Yeah,
Like they literally can't do anything.
I agree.
it's just not likely unless you think that they're like just insanely more powerful. And the only way you really get that is if you really overinterpret Momoshiki versus Kaguya to be like, yeah, base Momo just absolutely blitzes and just flicks her in the forehead like Beerus versus Goku and she dies or something, like,
Yeah.
which is just not implied.
No,
at all.
yeah.
Implied anywhere. Like
In anything.
even the Momo over Kaguya statements don't get you there. Like they don't get you to Momoshiki's gonna descend from the heavens and like forehead tap Kaguya and she's gonna die. Like you
Yeah.
you
No.
don't get that implication from anything other than like edgy power scaling.
Yeah, it's if anything, it's just arbitrarily stronger, which could be like maybe he outputs 1 more joule of energy or something. But like we literally we just don't know. It's just too ambiguous. But anyway, that's really all there is to say. I hope you guys did enjoy
it's
this
fair.
video. When I was first thinking,
Yeah, no, like, once again, that's fair. So, keep yawning. Keep yawning so goddamn much. Yeah, no, that's basically fair. I'm gonna be honest. Like, I don't see anything wrong with basically everything we just kind of covered. If you really, really think about it, it's just that simple. That's basically the only way to kind of really go about that. Literally exactly what I said, what the direction they were more likely to go into. They kind of basically explained everything perfectly, and then most importantly, like, that's just basically what it is when it comes down to it. Like, they just don't have really anything to kind of like contest or even be able to remotely allow them to be able to pull the W. Like, what can they do? They can't do anything against Limbo. Madara has all these abilities, hacks, and amps upon amps, and so much more chakra than them. It's like they're just gonna lose. Like, it's just that simple. The only argument you could really have for the 5 Kage is to basically prove that they are drastically over and scaling over that version of Madara. And when you really think about it and analyze it, and especially with all the the arguments Six and Seth basically just made for Madara, he's basically just slightly below Kaguya, and Kaguya was basically either relative to Momoshiki, and then it wasn't like either one was just drastic over each other, and if they were getting fucking shit on by Momoshiki, eventually, you know, like what Madara, who's just a little bit more below, basically, or you know, or maybe a medium, intermediately more below, but not drastically, you know, with all his abilities and limbo and all that. It's just, that's it. It's a GG. So I don't. It's just yeah. It's just not. It's more in favor for Madara. He basically wins. You know what I mean? 9 out of 10 times with low to mid difficulty, in my opinion, and that's basically it. You know, so great video. Absolutely agree. I wouldn't say really anything otherwise than that, and we'll kind of leave it at that. But if you guys enjoy this reaction video, make sure to leave a like, comment your thoughts down below. What do you think of basically the 5 Kage versus Madara? Do you think they're just drastically more powerful and they shit on him? Or do you think, you know, Madara is kind of, you know, not that far apart, and basically with his hacks and abilities, he would just kind of just shit on him, and that's it? You know, let me know. Subscribe for more content. Subscribe if you guys love the channel. Let me know any video recommendations, anything else to watch, and so on and so forth. I did just recently go over all my comments and whatnot, so there will be some things I will be kind of going into video production direction wise, and we'll kind of just go from there. So yeah, so other than that, peace guys.